Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Wizkid and Burna Boy will never, ever be Fela Kuti. I'm going to say something that might be viewed as being dangerous. The truth is that we did not outgrow Fela Kuti. We actually just got comfortable with our chains. The sort of bondage where we find ourselves in. Most of us find ourselves in these days. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, why Wizkid and Burna Boy feel more relevant to many Nigerians today than Fela Kuti ever will be currently currently as we speak. Not because that they're greater. It's not because that Wizkid or Burna Boy are greater than he was. But because Wizkid and Burna Boy are actually much easier to listen to and much easier for a lot of people to actually swallow. And that's one reason, and that for me is one of many reasons why Wizkid and Burna Boy can never be Fela Kuti. You see, there's that comparison trap that we find a lot of people tend to set these days. The people love to compare Fela with Wizkid and Burna Boy as if they are actually in the same category, and as if they did the same job, when the truth is they actually didn't do the same job. So comparing them is like comparing a war journalist to a lifestyle influencer. Two completely different things, two different times, different risks, different purposes. Fela Kuti, for those who can actually remember, Fela Kuti was making music under a military dictatorship. Wizkid and Burna Boy, meanwhile, are actually making music under global capitalism. Two very different environments, which means and tells anyone with a brain that these are two very, very different working conditions. But then let's ask ourselves, let's actually ask the question, who Fela Kuti, who was Fela Kuti? Who was he really? You see, Fela Kuti was actually arrested almost about, I think, pretty much over 200 times. I stand to be corrected on that. He was arrested. He was beaten. You had his mother, the late great Ransom Kuti, being thrown down from a window, and unfortunately did not survive. That whole trauma, that whole incident and all. You had his house. He had his house burnt. And at the end of the day, he used his music as confrontation. His music was confrontation. His music was a weapon and not vibes. His music was not an escape. What it was just straight up confrontation. His songs were not meant to make you feel good. Yes, people danced to it when they could, but it was not created to make you feel good or make you feel good about yourself. They were meant to make you feel uncomfortable and ask yourself questions about the current environment that was being lived in as of that time. And here's why modern society struggles with Fela Kuti's music. And that's the problem. The fact that we actually even struggle about it today for me is actually a huge problem, because Fela is actually seen as inconvenient to a generation that's trained to survive, but by ignoring the discomfort that it's actually going through. Today's mindset, ladies and gentlemen, in Nigeria, and please do allow me to use Nigerian vernacular, the mindset of most Nigerians today is actually, hey, no be today they happen, not today, or things like, oh, at least we are alive, which is, at least we are alive, or I go live soft life later, which means living a better life later on in your lifetime if you do make it to that point. And we, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually learned to normalize dysfunction in Nigeria, if not much of Africa. And Fela Kuti does not allow that, or rather, should I say, did not allow that, while he was alive. His music does not allow that. What it does is actually interrupt that. It questions it head on. So what's Burna Boy and Wizkid's real role? And this is not me attacking them at all. Hey, everyone do their own thing. I'm not going to shit on your hustle, because the truth is, Wizkid and Burna Boy, they're not activists. I cannot imagine any of them ever pretending to be activists ever in their career. What they are actually are what I call cultural exporters, brand negotiators, global representatives. Their job is actually, to get that reach. Fela Kuti's job was resistance, to fight the oppression of the day. And you cannot dance to resistance comfortably. No, you're not even meant to even dance to it. to be honest with you. You know, so the cultural, and for me, I think what we're going through right now is what I call cultural amnesia. You know, because the question is, what do we as a society actually, what do we do, you know, as a society? Because, yeah, we praise Fela historically, but we tend to sideline him psychologically. And, you know, because if you really listen to Fela Kuti today, he is, whether you like it or not, still talking about things that are going on now in the country, still things that are going on now in Africa, if not the world. You know, he's talking about things like corruption. He's talking about police brutality. He's talking about leadership failure. He's talking about mental slavery. You know, and he, whether you like it or not, he is still pretty much current and relevant, even many years after his passing on. And that's why, one of the many reasons why people find him so uncomfortable. Because the real reason, and here's the real reason for the comparison. You see, the comparison actually exists to actually reduce, and I hate to say this, and it's really sad, but this comparison for me actually just exists in order to reduce Fela Kuti, to turn him into just another musician when he really and truly wasn't. You know, because if we accept that he was more than that he was more than just a musician, then we must actually admit that, you know, we have actually abandoned what he actually stood for. And that's just the uncomfortable part. That's just the uncomfortable part of it. And hence why we do the whole comparison thing. The verdict of all this, honestly, is that our idol societies don't erase revolutionaries because they were wrong. They actually erase them because, you know, these revolutionaries were actually demanding of what the society is not ready to actually give. You know, we didn't outgrow Fela Kuti, whatever we like to know. We just we actually outgrew the appetite for confrontation. You know, we prefer right now, we actually prefer vibes over vigilance, which is really sad to say. In the end, the solution is just simple. The solution is not to turn Wizkid or Burna Boy into activists. They never said they're activists, and I don't think they want to be activists either. The solution is to stop pretending that, you know, Fela Kuti is just an entertainer. He's not an entertainer. What he is actually a mirror, a huge, big ass mirror. Even after passing on, you know, even decades after his passing away, and until we actually look into the mirror without turning away, we will keep choosing comforts. You know, we will keep choosing comforts over consciousness and calling it growth. When the truth is, as a society now in Nigeria, even in much of Africa, really and truly, we're not even growing. Let me know in the comments if you really even think we're even growing at all, and why. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.